What's up, guys? It's Chris. Here to do my UFC 121 predictions. Lesnar versus Velasquez. Big event. Probably one of the biggest of the year, if not the biggest in UFC. We'll see. The primetime special has definitely helped build the anticipation that's already there amongst fans, myself included. Um, Before I get to that, though, real quick, don't forget there's some other MMA on this week. You got Strikeforce Challengers on Friday on Showtime, and more notably, you got Bellator on Thursday. Lyman Good defending his welterweight title against Ben Askren in a fight I'm really looking forward to. Eddie Alvarez taking on Roger Huerta, non-title bout, but it should be a good scrap regardless, so make sure to check those out, MMA fans. Anyways, on to UFC 121. Talked about this show Sunday on the radio show, Science Bites Radio Show, with co-host Fight Magazine's Danny Acosta, so if you guys want to go back and check that out and hear his thoughts on the fights, you can. I'll put a link in the information part of the video as usual. Anyways, on to this event. Really looking forward to it. I'm pretty sure everyone is. Not really going to talk about the whole undercard, just a couple of fights real quick on the undercard. Patrick Cote taking on Tom Lawler. Both coming off losses. Cote to Belcher. Lawler to, I believe, Joe Dirksen. Got a wrestler against a guy that likes to stand and bang. I'm going to favor Patrick Cote in this fight. Lawler's been more willing to stand and trade in his last few fights. Done all right, but I think against Cote, that's not, it's probably not going to work out that good for him. And even if he goes to the ground, I think Cote can survive there, and Lawler's kind of gassed, as tired out in his last couple of performances as the fights progress. So I think he'll probably do the same here, and I see Cote getting a late knockout. Next up, we got Ultimate Fighter winner of the last season, Ultimate Fighter, Court McGee taking on Ryan Jensen. Court's first fight since winning the Ultimate Fighter. I've said it before, time and time again. I believe that Joe Silva and Dana White like to match up their Ultimate Fighter winners favorably, and I think that's what they're trying to do here. Ryan Jensen's not an easy fight for Court McGee, but I see Court McGee winning by decision. On to the pay-per-view portion of the card. First up, got Brendan Schaub taking on Gabe Gonzaga. Schaub coming off a knockout win over Chris Tuchscherer. Gonzaga coming off a TKO or knockout loss to Junior Dos Santos. This fight, Gabe Gonzaga is the better fighter. He's a lot better in jiu-jitsu. Stand up, probably about even. Gabe's got way more experience, but thing is, he just can't handle when things are going his way. Kind of folds under the pressure, kind of buckles a little bit mentally. Saw it against Verdum, saw it against Randy Couture, kind of saw it against Dos Santos as well. Schaub hasn't been fighting that long. Former NFL player, was on the Ultimate Fighter, but I think that he's got the hand speed and the foot speed to keep this fight standing. And if he's able to hit and clip Gonzaga, I think Gonzaga will just do as he usually does when he gets hit and kind of just go down and not fight back very hard and end up getting stopped. However, if Gabe can get this fight to the ground where he wants it, on top position, I can see him getting a submission pretty easily. But I'm going to favor Brendan Schaub to win this by stoppage. Next up, we got Tito Ortiz taking on Matt Hamill. It's pretty interesting to see Tito not in the main event or co-main event. It seems like he's been in one or the other for as long as I can remember. But no more. Taking on Matt Hamill. Good storyline here. Tito, as we all know, coached Matt Hamill in The Ultimate Fighter, was almost like a big brother figure to him. But guess those days are over. As for the fight, it's a close call. Tito hasn't fought in over a year since he last fought Forrest Griffin, lost to Forrest, and has been out with injuries, surgeries and whatnot. Matt Hamill's coming off a win over Keith Jardine. I think I'm going to favor Matt Hamill. I would favor Tito Ortiz because I think he's a better fighter, but he's just had so many injuries over the last few years. That adds up over time. It slows you down. He's been out of the ring out of the cage for over a year. I think he's better standing. Wrestling, I'm not really sure. I'd probably give a slight edge to Matt Hamill. Definitely, Tito's got much better technique. Matt Hamill's technique on the feet really hasn't improved that much since his Ultimate Fighter days. A little bit, but not that much. I don't know. But while it's standing, I think Tito can get the better of it. On the ground, it'll be interesting to see who wins the wrestling battle in this fight. But I'm going to favor Matt Hamill to win it by decision. If Tito is close to 100% or as close as he can be at this point in his career, physically, then I think he should win this fight. But I just have too many question marks about him heading into this bout. So I'm going to go with Matt Hamill by unanimous or split decision. Next up, we got Paulo Thiago taking on Diego Sanchez. Good matchmaking here by Joe Silva. Both guys coming off losses. Diego to John Hathaway. Paulo Thiago to Martin Kampmann. Diego looked really bad in that fight against Hathaway. Moved back up to welterweight. It's hard to say whether welterweight's the best weight for him or not. He looked really small against Hathaway. I don't think Thiago has a big size advantage on him. Both guys decent on the feet. I'd say Diego's a little bit better overall, but I think Paulo's got more power. On the ground, I'm interested to see who has a better jiu-jitsu. I think Diego's got the better wrestling, but I don't know who has a better jiu-jitsu. Both these guys are pretty good there. I'm going to favor Thiago, though. He's looked better more recently, in my opinion, even in losses. Diego was looking good until he got stomped out by BJ. But then, like I said, he looked really bad and small against Hathaway. So I don't know how he's going to win, but probably a decision. I see this fight making it all 3 rounds, but I'm going to favor Paulo Thiago to win. But it could go either way. That's the great thing about this card. If you look at the pay-per-view portion of the card, pretty much every fight you can make a case for either guy. You know, it's almost 50-50, almost a coin flip. So that's one thing I really like about this card, aside from the fact that the main event is a huge fight. Next up, got Jake Shields making his long-awaited UFC debut, taking on Martin Kamen. Jake's coming off the win over Dan Henderson, where almost got knocked out in the first round, but recovered and ended up dominating Dan Henderson for the next 4 rounds. Martin, as I previously mentioned, is coming off the win over Paulo Thiago. This is a good fight, you know, no easy first fight for Jake in the UFC, you know, but I don't think he'd want it any other way. Martin's better on the feet, you know, got the Muay Thai background. Jake, I think, is better on the ground. He's got the better wrestling for sure. And I think his jiu-jitsu is better too, even though Martin Kamen is pretty good there as well. My only question in this fight is whether or not cutting back down to 170 welterweight is going to be a problem for Jake. He hasn't had to do it in a while, but I imagine it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, he's signed to be a welterweight fighter, you know, when he signed his contract, so I'm sure he figured he could make it without a problem. So while it's on the feet, I think Martin will get the better of it, but I think Jake can hang there. You know, he's not a fish out of water. He trains with Nate Diaz. Even if he doesn't fight like them, you know, I think he's used to dealing with those guys on the feet, which is no easy task, as we've seen. On the ground, I think Jake can get it there. Like I said, he's got the better wrestling, and I don't know if he'll submit Martin. I don't think he'll submit Martin, but I do think he will be able to work his way to a decision. So I've got Jake Shields by unanimous decision. On to the main event. You got the heavyweight champion of the world, Brock Lesnar, defending his title against the undefeated #1 contender, Cain Velasquez. Brock, coming off that win over Shane Carwin, where he was getting just pummeled in the first round, but was able to survive. Even got up late in the first round. Carwin gassed out. Brock took him down, submitted with the arm triangle choke in the second round. Cain Velasquez, coming off an impressive win over Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, hurt him on the feet, dropped him, finished him with punches on the ground. Although, you know, Nogueira is definitely past his prime, you know. As for this fight, you know, like I said, the primetime show, great build-up as usual. It got me looking more forward to the fight than I already was. I'd say that Brock has the size advantage, obviously goes without saying. Strength advantage, and slight speed advantage. I think Cain is better in the stand-up. I think he's got much better technique, especially his boxing. I'd say, you know, Cain probably has the edge in conditioning as well. Wrestling, I'm not for sure. You know, I know Brock won a heavyweight championship at NCAA. Cain didn't, but I've heard that Cain's level of opposition was tougher. That's why he didn't. I don't know if that's the case or not, but we'll see. I'm very curious to see who wins the wrestling battle in this fight. As for the fight itself, I think Brock will come out strong in the first couple of rounds. I think he'll get the better of it. I don't know if it's standing. I don't think he'll get the better of it, but I think he'll get some takedowns here and there and work some ground and pound. But I think Cain should be able to survive that, unless he gets hurt or something. Obviously, you know, Brock will be able to stop him. But I think Cain should be able to survive the first couple of rounds. And I think around the third round on, I think whether or not Brock says he's never really been tired in a fight, and he's training his, you know, his cardio, the fact is he's a very big guy. When you got that much muscle and mass, your body's going to, you know, require a lot of oxygen, especially when you're performing at a high level against an opponent that's really going to push you. So I think from the third round on, Cain's going to get stronger, and I think Brock's going to get, you know, tire out, not be as strong as he started the fight. I think Cain's going to take over. I think he'll be able to stuff more Brock's shots, be able to maybe get some takedowns of his own, and keep the fight standing, where I think he has his biggest advantage in the fight. So I do think Brock will win the early rounds, first 2, and I think Cain will come on and win the next 3. I don't really see Cain knocking out or stopping Brock. Brock's got a pretty solid chin, as we saw when he took that beating from Shane and survived. And Cain doesn't have one punch, you know, KO power necessarily. He knocked out Nogueira, but Nogueira is pretty much done. He's shot at this point. He hit Congo with a lot in 3 rounds, couldn't finish him. So even if Cain gets on top, I don't see him being able to stop Brock with punches. And I don't think he's going to submit Brock either. I don't see either guy getting submitted in this fight. You know, it's not really their specialties. And I think both are, you know, versed enough or, you know, knowledgeable enough to not get submitted. So I think Cain Velasquez is going to win this fight by unanimous decision, 3 rounds to 2, something like that. Of course, Brock can always win this fight. He can hurt Cain with his punches and finish him off. You know, Brock's a champion for a reason, but I'm going to favor Cain to win by unanimous decision. All right, that's it for now. I'll be back probably the night of the fight to talk about him afterwards. Definitely be talking about him next Sunday on the radio show, Science of Violence Radio. So, and like I said, if you want to hear more about more of my thoughts and Danny Acosta's Fight Magazine, Danny Acosta's, the link will be in the information part of the video as always, as well as a link to my Twitter. Till then, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on the main event and the Matt Hamill, Tito Ortiz fight. Actually, any of the fights, but particularly those two. Kind of curious to hear which way people are going. That's it for now, though. Be back. Until next time, guys.